See that you're born an Italian if you want your life to be great. See that you're born an Italiano and your life will be great.
How about some Donatello?
That's a nice.
Hey there, Paisani, and welcome back to another episode of the Italian-American podcast. I'm John Viola, along with the notorious POB, the Italian-American Wikipedia, Mr. Patrick O'Boyle. We are coming to you from the corner of Mulberry and Grand, the crossroads of Italian America, here at Red Sauce Studio in the heart of New York City's Little Italy. Very, very happy to be with you guys. We are recording during Italian-American Heritage Month in October. Super excited for the episode we have coming up. Want to thank you for joining us either through podcasts, players, or YouTube, or anywhere that you find us. Thank you for being a part of the Italian-American podcast. Hope you will give us a like, give us a subscribe, join this movement. Yes, you have to. You have to join.
Even if you don't like us, you have to do it anyway.
Yes, if you have a vowel at the end of your name, out of pity, whatever it is. Yeah.
John brought in these consulting people.
Yes, they're very smarter than us.
To grow this, you have to do your part and help us.
Yes.
What are the things they told us we have to do?
Like, comment,
do all those things.
Subscribe.
Yeah.
Turn on your alerts so you see when we get new stuff. All those kind of things.
For us to grow this and to us to put out a positive portrayal of Italian Americans, to be able to offer authors and academics and all different things, personalities and community leaders and organizations. If you like this content and we want to spread this gospel, it's going to spread because you do those things, and that is going to boost our viewership. So if you're there complaining about you don't like the way Italian Americans are portrayed, or you don't feel, we have our place in the public arena, this is how you fix that problem. So please do for us what needs to be done.
That's right. It's the little things that count, and you can do one little action and
that's all we ask.
And push
we don't
us and
bother
support.
You for anything else.
No, and that's our Italian American Heritage Month message to all of everybody out there in podcast land. It is a very, very.
Can I say it's cold here again?
It's cold. Yeah, it's really cold in New York. Finally.
The people looking at me here. It's cold. It's physically cold.
It's cold in
here.
the studio.
It's a very cold studio.
It's the first time we've ever had to turn the heat on. We've never turned the heat on before. I don't know. It smells like heat is coming out now. I know. We'll see. I mean, we may asphyxiate. We're in a soundproof, airproof, tight room.
I almost want to start a campfire.
I know.
And I'm not a cold. I keep the house at 68 degrees all year.
Oh, that's cold.
Yeah. So for me to be cold is an accomplishment.
I know. It's chilly. It's turned pretty quickly here in New York. I missed Columbus Day. I was in Florida with our daughter celebrating her birthday. I missed everything. You did everything, but I left a pretty
convenient timing.
I know.
Convenient timing.
I never thought about the fact that I got married. My anniversary was yesterday, October 14th. Yeah. And my daughter happened to be born. I was 7 years married.
Wow.
Yeah. And my daughter happened to be born.
Didn't they make a movie, The 7-Year Itch?
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that.
That's a monumental year.
Does that mean my wife's going to leave me?
I don't know.
If she hasn't left already.
If she was going to go, that would have happened a long time ago.
No, she's fine. But our daughter Gia was born October 6th, so everything in my life is like compacted into a 2-week period.
That's get it all done at once.
Except it's Columbus Day. So I never get to participate, which is great because I've had enough parades to choke a horse. So you were in the parade.
I want to get a horse for next year. We've had this conversation.
I know you really want to ride on a horse.
I want to ride on a horse.
We might as well. Why not?
Why not? It's a fun day.
It is a fun day.
It's a fun day.
And you said it was a bigger turnout this year than last.
I think so.
That
was
great.
my impression.
That's awesome.
Positive.
Yeah, it is. It seems like these things.
I mean,
are
the weather was nice, but the weather's been nice in the past too. I think it's the biggest crowd I've seen in a while.
That's good. And we had 2 floats this year.
We had 2 floats.
Right, one for
Next year we're gonna have 3 floats.
Are we really?
Yeah.
Just keep adding floats.
Do I ever? I'm not the downside.
No, you go big or go home. Yeah, next year we're gonna have horses, floats, all kinds of stuff. But it's good. It's good to see growth.
Because why walk when we could ride a horse?
Yeah, that's
We're Cavaliere senza cavallo. We got to fix that.
That is true. I love riding horses. That's like one of my favorite things to do.
I've only done it once in my life. I did at the Villa Roma.
We're heading up to Villa Roma this weekend.
One time, as a kid, I did at Villa, and it was too high. It wasn't my thing.
Are we going to do an episode in Villa Roma, like me and you?
I guess so.
We should think about that.
I have absolutely no. I'm never involved in planning.
So we're going up to Villa Roma, the last surviving Italian bocce belt resort, right? It's the only one left.
Last Catskill Italian-American resort.
There used to be maybe half a dozen.
In my lifetime, there was 3.
Yeah, Villa Visalia.
Villa Visalia, and Pine Springs.
And also the Villa Italia. And there was another one,
I don't
too.
know Villa Italia. I knew Pine Springs,
Yeah.
which we used to go to Pine Springs.
There's a
Villa
lot of
Roma.
them. And now this is the last
I
survivor.
never
It's great.
knew Vanessa Racci is a Villa Roma alumna.
I know. A lot of people in the tri-state area scratch the surface. They spend time in Villa Roma in the summers, and the Jewish community has the Borscht Belt and all these famous resorts, but we had some of our
Villa
own.
Roma was Disney World for Italian people.
Yeah, and we're going for Italian American
Yes.
weekend this
I
weekend.
wish I could recreate. If you had the actors, I would recreate. You know that Dirty Dancing?
Yes,
We could do the Italian version of Dirty Dancing at the Villa Roma in the 80s.
it would be kind of fun,
Really,
right?
really big hair.
Yeah.
And the Kiss Me I'm Italian shirts that are kind of ripped here.
I have an Italian
The
shirt.
muscle shirt kind of.
I have 2 vintage Villa Roma shirts I'm bringing up, actually.
And they had big buttons.
Really?
Kiss Me I'm Italian. That was like that big theme then. Italian Princess and Kiss Me I'm Italian.
I love the buttons. I got a big collection of those buttons. That's that's another thing. Columbus Day is great. You can put on these red, white, and green hats and buttons. And
People say, what did we do in Villa Roma? All you did was eat.
I hope that's what we're
It was
going to do
a
here.
full American breakfast, a full Italian-style lunch, and a full dinner, full blown-out dinner. So you just would walk around between meals. But it was a very Italian experience because, like, my grandmother would ask me in the morning when I was having breakfast, what do you want for dinner? It was the same thing. They would ask you at lunch, what do you want for dinner? They'd ask you at breakfast, what do you want for lunch?
And you were going with groups.
Yes, Holy Rosary in Jersey City, there was bus rides. There were buses of Italian people going up there.
Maybe
That was all the fun because everybody went together.
my hope is that we go this year and get to experience Italian American Week, and maybe next year we can be a more active part in it and kind of encourage our audience and our friends and everybody to
There was an army of ladies.
Yeah.
There was like 5 men on the bus and 45 widows. And they all had house dresses. It was the house dress generation. But they had their good house dresses for Villa Roma.
Of course, yeah.
And so between lunch and dinner, they'd walk around for like 13, 14 feet. And they would sit on beach chairs. And Villa Roma gave them lemon ice and watermelon.
That must have been great.
They were the happiest people. They felt like they won the lottery.
I can't wait for
Children
this
of
one.
the war and the Depression.
Yeah, God bless them. That's a special
Now
place.
that you're
and
moving into media, can we redo Dirty Dancing at Villa Roma?
give it a shot. Why not?
No, I'm serious.
No,
about
you get
this.
a good screenwriter. That's what we need.
Who's going to be our Patrick Swayze?
Nobody in this room. I can promise you that. They're not listening. Oh, Nikki will do it.
Nikki,
Nikki,
get out of here. Nikki, can they see him?
Yeah.
Can they see you on? I was going to say TV on the whatever this is, the video podcast.
They can see me, but I don't have a mic.
Oh, they can see him, but he doesn't have a mic right
You're
now.
going to be our Patrick Swayze.
He is. Nikki's
Who
an
was
actor
the
and a
female
singer.
actress in that? I don't remember.
Jennifer Grey. Jennifer Grey. Yeah.
No, we got to find time.
Okay. Well, we're out there. If you're Italian American Jennifer Grey, if you're an actor, want to be in this, hit us up. We have a guest here today who I don't know. I'm getting the sense I can't tell from looking at her whether or not she ever was in Villa Roma. You had a look. No, you never been there.
No, but I'm in for the Dirty Dancing.
You're in for the Dirty Dancing.
Recreation,
Okay.
if that happens.
This
Yeah.
is a very popular trend already in this room.
That
Margaret,
was a good idea, I think.
it is a good idea. Why not?
Talk to our friends at Hallmark.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah,
See if they
you're
can
out there.
make this happen.
Candace, if you're listening.
Yeah, got to figure out the right name for it. But we have a guest today that is another professional Italian American at this point who has dedicated her life. Yeah,
Proto professional Italian American.
yeah. You're very excited about this.
Yes,
this
because
has got.
I think that Margaret has there's two reasons why you're here.
Yes.
But I think the most important one, not that it's anything lesser for your second career
Yes.
in the Italian American world, but you were the first Italian American blogger. That Italian American girl was your blog.
Yes.
You were the pioneer.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. That's amazing that you said this to me when I walked in, and I didn't realize that you remembered and you knew. But yeah, I mean, before we were calling everything social media influencers, that was
You were
us.
the first.
I feel like
You were the first.
I was one of. I think there may have been like one or two other people, but thank you. That's amazing that you knew that.
And I'm going to tell you something else, and I have said this to John.
Yeah.
What you did, and contemporaneous, so you were in the United States.
Yes.
There were Americans, what we'd call Medigan people,
Right.
not to be offensive.
Oh, no,
but there was a
that's-
few of
yeah.
them who were in Italy as expats,
Yeah.
who were bloggers at the
Correct.
same time.
Correct.
And they were all female. I don't know, one male. They
Yeah.
were all girls.
Yes.
And I can confess, we were all about 30 at the time.
Yes.
Right? They were 20, 29, 30. Some of them had married guys in Italy. Some of them had just gone to Italy for the fun of it.
Right.
They and it was like this, the first time that I called it was a media revolution.
Yeah.
Because you were like self-published. Like we talked about the
Yeah.
self-published book, right?
Yeah.
So before that period, right? And I remember people calling it weblog, right?
Right.
Even that old. And before, you had to find a medium that would print it. So if you were going to do an article, you had to find a newspaper or a magazine that would print it. But you were able to self-publish on the internet with the one of those blogs, web blogs.
Right.
And you were the revolution. You are the foundation this is built on.
Grazie.
He talks about that a lot. He does.
Grazie.
I feel about all the time. Because
Thank you.
when John approached me in 2015, what year did we get to? Did we all go out to dinner that night?
No, it had to be 2018 when I came home. The podcast started in 2015 and we came on in 2017, maybe?
Maybe 2017?
Something like that, yeah. 2018?
Yeah.
I think it's 18 we came on because I came home in 2017.
All right, so I remember John sitting down and a lot of the vision I had for this was based on what you guys had done. This is
Thank
a
you.
thank you to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Because a lot of the formation, because I had seen the difference that you had made, right? Because the number one obstacle I had to this was I didn't understand it, right? So he drags me into his office, tells me be funny. I don't know what that was. So I throw him up the monkey.
He didn't like to hear that.
Well, I didn't understand it because there's concepts I understand. I understand talk radio,
Right.
Right, because I grew up with it. That was
That was
ubiquitous
our
in the New
thing.
York metro area,
Right.
So I understood that. But my concern was content. Like, so what defines an Italian American
Right.
podcast, right?
Right.
Whereas, let's say you have talk radio. What fueled talk radio was constant news, right? So all those big personalities of that time period
Yeah.
that were the ones that were before cable. All the programs are on cable. Something would happen in the news, and all these talking heads would get involved. But the Italian Americans, I said to John, I said, well, my concern is content, right?
Yeah.
Because when we first discussed this, all right, John and I have a polio container. See the polio container there?
Yeah.
That was our bonding because my grandmother used to call it piscia d'uto, right? So we had this as we talked about this. My grandmother would not, in Jersey City, my grandmother's bathroom was in a hallway.
Yeah.
So she didn't want me to go to the cold hallway. So she'd come to the bed when I was 4 years old and say, piscia, mommy, piscia. And she'd have the container, right? So John, but why am I bringing this up? Is John's like, well, we can
John's looking at you like,
but
why?
because
Right.
that's how we first met. First time we ever met.
Story more than
I
me.
had
Okay.
He's the one that sells.
He
the
had the
story.
polio containers, but I had a decommissioned cooking pot, a sauce pot that my
Right.
grandmother made me
Right.
go because her bathroom was across the hallway,
Okay.
and she didn't want me to have to go. So we connected on that
Listen
level.
how-
Right,
sick
right.
it was.
See,
And
Every
it's
time
no,
I
you're
see
none. That's like that's part of like they take care of you and
Right.
they don't want you to like no me piglio freddo
Absolutely.
when
Right,
you
'cause
get out
you're
of
gonna die
bed.
from
Yes.
pneumonia. You
Right,
can't-
right.
But the reason I bring that up is
Yes.
where you come into the piscia do the polio container conversation is
I don't know if this is good or
No,
bad.
it's
But-
important because why I signed on to this was I said to him, that's a funny story once. So you can't do 52 weeks of the piscia do the polio container commercial conversation
Right,
because
right.
it gets stale, it gets
Right.
old. So my concern was how are we going to keep this from burning out, right?
Yeah.
And a big part of it was I thought to myself, and I but no, when I was not pushy, but when I'm tough with certain things with this, I stick with it. My concern was I wanted to do this in a talk show type format
Yeah.
because I felt that bringing new personalities on would be the news feed.
Yeah.
Bringing people on,
Yeah.
different stories. And I thought back to like, I had, I don't even remember the names of them. That's how far back it is. I had aggregators for the blogs.
Oh yeah.
So back then there was no smartphones.
Right. It was
When
an
you guys
RSS
started.
feed, and it would
Yeah,
would come
correct.
to your email.
Well, I had
Right.
it on. I would go on and I would click on something on my PC.
Right.
It would be like a list of all you guys.
Right,
Stella
right.
La Cucina. Right.
Oh yeah, yeah. The travel and the cooking girls and
Right. All the
yeah.
yeah.
And mine was just like the umbrella of everything.
Right. And,
Right.
And I would just click and read.
Right,
and click,
right.
And then when it got really evolved, it would have like a little star when somebody had posted
Yeah.
something new. And I would tell John all my experience with that, and I said that this is how I saw, this is the vision I had for this. But so much of the vision, so much of our success, I'll say totally because I would never have signed on if I didn't have the confidence of what you guys had done.
It's amazing.
12 years before.
That's
So
really.
this is,
I mean,
wanna-
that's like I don't have words because it's it gets to my heart thinking about that, because I started that blog back in the 2007 2008 because obviously I'm first generation Italian American. And, I wanted to connect with other people. And I said to myself, where is is anybody like me? because now we're so connected on social media where it's like you see everybody Italian American, everybody's in an organization, and you have that 2-degree separation everywhere. But I feel like back then we weren't that connected.
Absolutely.
Right.
You're absolutely
And
correct.
so if we were getting emails or you were subscribing to someone else's blog, you were like, oh, like I would put up a story about like, my mother coming to America or my mother's, experience with making Thanksgiving dinner, which is like an American holiday. And, we would always like laugh in my family. So I would share like stories like that and stories about my father. And, my father, talk about like content machine. This is a guy who came over from Italy. And he just every blog entry was probably, for me, the foundation was really like off of what my father always did. So, I mean, I love that blog, and it's a brand, right? The Italian American Girl is what I kind of really built that connective piece around to really then be able to connect with everyone else in the Italian American community. And back then, I remember like before influencers were getting like brand deals and things, back then, like Barilla reached out and they were like, do you want some pasta? And I was like, Barilla wants to send me pasta?
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was so weird, but we ended up doing a commercial with them. We're talking like 2009, and we thought nothing of it. We just were excited and happy. I'm like, oh, they want like our input,
Yeah.
but no one was like hustling the social media deal to be like, well, for how many impressions or whatever. We were doing it out of love, and like you're saying, Patrick, it's like I would do it and start it over 1 million times just to have like that same effect. And because you're telling me this now, like wow, like that just blows my mind. I was speechless there for a minute because I don't know. That's it, really my
deserve
heart.
all our
Thank
thanks.
you. Thank you.
I mean, Margaret Fontana is the executive director of the New Jersey Italian Heritage Commission, right?
Correct.
That's
Yes.
the
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
And we've had Bob DiBiase, who's a friend of ours, on the podcast
Yep.
a while ago now. I think it's I wrote it down, episode 268, State Your Case, all about the politics of how these commissions come to be and why they're important. So it's a great opportunity today. I want to talk about your
Yeah.
work at the commission, but
Yeah.
it's appropriate to go down this path on kind of pioneering through communicative technologies, because you have a background in TV as well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Before becoming a true professional Italian American,
Right, yeah.
you were in television production.
Yeah, so I went to school for television when we called it TV and radio and not digital
Yeah,
or
I know.
film or media production. So yeah, my background is in television. I started out as an intern working for NBC, and worked on different shows and kind of like took on every position. And back then, you didn't say no to any opportunity. If they asked you to go, walk a celebrity down the street on 57th Street and wait for them while they go into the coffee shop, that's what you did. And then you came back and you were like, all right, that's what I did today. Very odd, but I guess this is what it means to be in TV.
Yeah.
So I paid my dues. I put in the time in my internship years, and then my first job was right out of college, which I ended up working for. Speaking of talk show, my roots are talk show. So the Sally Jesse Raphael show. Do you remember Sally
Of course,
Jesse?
yeah.
The big glasses.
Yeah, so Sally Jesse Raphael, I mean, I learned everything. I was the audience coordinator, I was a production assistant, I was associate producer, I was a producer, all in the span of like 7 to 10 years. I grew up on the show, basically. I'm still very close with Sally. I see her, once in a while. She's still around in New York, scooting around doing her thing. But yeah, and then after that, I started working for Discovery Channel. This was after 9/11. So there are important things that happen that have to do with historical events, right? So I spent all that time in New York during those NBC years. But then after 9/11, I moved away from New York and I started working for the Discovery Channel. So I started doing a lot of writing, documentary writing, which was a different animal because talk
Of
shows
course,
like
yeah.
hustle bustle. And Discovery was like eye-opening. It was like a beautiful experience because it actually gave me a chance to kind of like go back to, like when you're in school and you have to like write your research papers and cite your work and like really get into things. That's really what we were doing. We were really researching topics. And that's when like Discovery was like the Blue Ocean. Remember when
Yeah,
it was
sure.
like Blue Planet, Blue Ocean
Yeah.
kind of series? So it was just really beautiful content back then. And then from there, I started, just kind of moving more into corporate, more production in corporate. And so I became a little bit more on the corporate side. Well, still trying to maintain like the creative side, but I happen to have a knack for like the corporate side. So I ended up working more like on the legal side, licensing, while staying with Discovery. But then I moved into working more closely like now with CNBC, so producing a lot of their different segments and still on the social media side too, which is interesting because content creation is like huge now. And so I have like this very diverse background. So then, fast forward leads me to now. And I saw that Bob DiBiase put out a thing for the executive director position about a year ago. And I feel that now, like where I am in my life and all the things I've done, my experiences, I feel like it's time for me to like give back inside the Italian American community. And so I think this opportunity with the commission is perfect for me now because it gives me a chance to now look at where we need to go to educate. Because, you were speaking before just about like Columbus Day Parade and, the Italian Americans of today. But I think there's a huge component missing, which is education, like you mentioned, Patrick, earlier. So now I'm in this spot. I'm in this position. I was so honored and like just over the moon that they offered the executive director position to me. And, so it's been about 6 months I'm in with them. And it's been amazing so far. Their charge for what they're really pushing and what they're working on as far as their mission is the K through 12 Italian heritage curriculum. So that is an important piece of helping integrate, getting into the school system and teaching more about our Italian culture. So for me, this is where I am now. And so yesterday was Columbus Day. We had we were all at different Columbus Day events across New Jersey and New York, I'm sure. But it is interesting because the biggest component missing in really kind of talking and connecting the generations is that education. So we're excited. We're like moving so fast right now to kind of develop more lesson plans and then be able to integrate them into the school system. So we're New Jersey, so we're working in the New Jersey school systems, and we work closely with the Department of Education, and we're based at Rutgers as well. So we have like a lot of different connective pieces going on with the with higher education and also with the Department of Education. So it's a lot, but there's so much work to be done. And so now where I am and how I feel about my culture, I'm first generation. That's what I think, sometimes I get sometimes I cringe, like you're telling me I'm one of the first influencers, but sometimes I see the newer influencers and I'm a little worried. I worry because they're so influential that anyone coming up under them thinks that that's just one element or one way of doing things or one way of speaking. And I think there's so many layers to that because there's New York culture, there's tri-state culture, and some of these things are true, like I'm referring to like behavior or stereotypes, right? Some of these things are real, but I think education has to be key. Aside from like, the more lovely packaged, educational curriculum items you get through school, but I think as individuals, we really have to do more work.
Our goal here has been balance.
Balance.
In the sense that there's a lot of MTV, and we're trying to bring some PBS into the
That's good.
The piazza, the digital piazza. Because if we had more programs, dare I say, like ours, we have so many authors. I think to myself, how are we going to cover them all?
That's interesting. Yeah, we have that too.
There's so much positive. I mean, I've said to John, I actually we've talked to consultants. I talked to one guy at the best thing I got out when I went to the podcast conference, whatever it was. It was a big convention. Yes. And I spoke to a guy and he said, well, don't go past 2 days, 2 episodes a week. He goes, because then people just stop.
Right,
It's too much people listen.
It's
but the reason I brought it up was I say to myself, in one lifetime, how are we going to get all these people in? Like, the content is quality. I mean, there's people written. We could just do a podcast on Italian American authors and have enough content from now to the end of the world. Because people have done books in the past and the future and everything. So what we're saying is that we how you were a pioneer, you were the pioneer. right? Columbus. That's what we have you here on Columbus Day week. No, yeah,
Is that the title of the episode once you post this? The Pioneers?
I said to John because I thought the timing. I thought that because I know you had come and other reasons we couldn't have you on previously. I thought it was serendipitous that we had you now because you left that opened that path up.
Yeah.
And I think that of a positive conversation, of an adult conversation, of an academic conversation. And we've said here, the MTV is great. People have a lot of fun watching the MTV. But we also want to make sure they eat a lot of candy, and we want to make sure we get their vegetables.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're the broccoli rab.
I was going to say, we're the scatol of Italian American.
Iron and
you're the nutrients.
But it's like you talk about coming from a media background,
Yeah.
right? You said something really interesting to me. You said we used to call it TV and radio. So I grew up obsessed with television, and my dad used to take me and my brothers to the Museum of Television and Radio here in Manhattan. And back then, you couldn't watch anything on demand, right?
No,
and so there was
right.
only so many channels, even on cable. And you'd go and you'd pay for I think it was a 2-hour block, and you could watch as many tapes as they had in this catalog.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And one day I went to go back as I got older, and the Museum of Television and Radio was now called the Paley Center for Media.
Oh, yeah.
And, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's this whole transformation. And sometimes you forget how far we've come and this leap we've made in terms of what constitutes media, what constitutes education versus entertainment. We do try to walk a line between entertainment and education, but the bottom line is, in some sense, there is a responsibility that comes with these things. Like a guy we know who's a professor, I flippantly made a comment one time about feeling like Sicily was more Greek than Naples. And a professor friend of ours wrote me and said, fundamentally that's not true, and blah, blah, the history. And I thought, well, we're just having conversations, right? I'm just giving my opinion of how I feel, right? But then the question becomes, what do we owe to an audience that comes seeking out something educational? It's sort of the Spider-Man with great power comes great responsibility thing.
Absolutely.
It's real.
Yeah, and I think what you guys are doing is like amazing, and it's and this is actually groundbreaking because I know you have other we have other groups here right in the building who do their other podcasts.
Got other podcasts,
and so it's a good balance because it's like you are the broccoli rab, it's a little bit more educational, but I think that's important. It's our responsibility. I feel strongly about that. And I don't think I'm super old, being Antica,
No,
and thinking,
you don't need a chalkboard and chalk.
No, but I think now more than ever, we have to lead the charge, as who we are, first generation, third, fourth. Everybody, any generation is it's an important generation. I used to actually have a little bit of, we were a little snobby when you're first generation. And I think you notice when you go to events and stuff, people are like, oh, you first generation, you second generation. There's almost a little bit of
self-separation is a huge thing.
Yeah, but that's an Italian problem.
Right.
See, God made me Irish for a reason, right? My father's off the boat Irish.
And I always wondered, Patrick, and I'm so happy you told me about your dad being
because it gives me a perspective.
Irish, yeah.
The Irish thing gives me a perspective.
Yeah.
And I said, God, why? And God gave me the answer. God's because I can understand Italian people now. Because all the most whacked out stuff about Italian people, I could step back and say, what would Irish people think? Irish people are trained to row together.
Yeah.
Right? Got to row together because there's an Englishman over that hill that wants to kill us. So if we're two neighbors and we're fighting over something,
right.
we got to put that argument aside because that English landlord wants to get rid of the two of us.
Right.
So I have to cooperate with you. The Italian system is the opposite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I am going to work with my landlord to kill my neighbor.
Right. It's
So
it's a little ferocious.
It's ferocious.
Yeah.
So I'm
It's
saying,
a little ferocious.
when you take the Italian thing of pecking order, right? I'm first generation. I'm second generation. We're always classifying. It's a classifying culture. It's a signoria mentality. I went to school. It's the only country in the world that comes up with 5 titles: Cavaliere, Dottore, Professore. Avvocato,
Ingegnere. And to your point, I think there's also a separation between the folks who are on the scholar side.
Oh, absolutely.
And then
of
the
course.
folks who are kind of
Forget about it.
on the street, Italian American, doing life, don't have 10 PhDs or whatever they're doing. But there has to be a connection. That's the part that's missing, I think, in our community.
It's a cultural thing because the Irish people are browbeaten of cooperation. It's just lifting your head up from the boat, you're gonna get knocked down, right?
Yeah.
And the Italians are the opposite end.
Yeah.
Where I'm a PhD, and where did you get your degree from?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a constant jousting match, because that is the Achilles heel of why we're limited.
Yeah. No, I
Because
agree.
if we cooperated, we could take over. Like, you know, to quote one of our greatest guests ever, Italy is the world's lifestyle superpower. Like if we all work
that's
together, what we could do.
Yeah.
But that God had to give us that handicap, or the whole world would be Italian. That
Right.
had to be
That's
the
absolutely right. Our
handicap
natural
to keep
limit.
us-
Right. But,
It's a
but
governor.
as they say, we're more alike than different.
Yeah, we
You know?
say that. So, you
Yeah.
first generation, second generation.
Right,
Like,
right.
the Italian Canadians, right? The Italian Canadians will be the first ones to bring up, and this is now, we have many Italian Canadian listeners or friends.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
well, the Italian Americans, because they're here multiple generations, right? And Australia has a much more recent. So the majority of the
Yeah,
Australian
yeah.
immigration is much more recent, as is the Canadian one. So they're like, oh, well, the Italian Americans aren't really Italian because they're far removed. Well, my question is, when you have Italian Americans who self-identify as Italian American, whose ancestors came here in the 1870s, when Canada has 150 years of Italo-Canadians, are they going to have the same attachment? Like,
Right.
it's easy for them to say,
Well, they didn't go through it yet.
sure, they didn't go through
Right,
it yet.
like they're
Correct,
like
correct.
you know, in the United States, the immigration story is a lot different than in
100%.
Canada, right? And it was interesting. I was talking to another Italian American person, but she's like third, fourth generation. I think maybe fourth generation, and she's out in Colorado. And so if you think about even the distribution of Italians that are now Italian Americans across the United States, you know, the stories and the layers are just so different for everybody. But the stories are what keep us connected, you know? So you can, I think tri-state Italian American, yeah, we're a little harder on that, like you're saying, that classification. But
That's been a big part
Yeah.
of what we've gone out to do. Like, we went to the Italians in Arkansas, and we
Yeah.
went to the Italians in Nebraska, and the Italians in, there's so many Italian, and with the New York Central mentality,
Right,
we're the
right.
center of the universe.
And,
Right?
oh my gosh, I said that. I go, I think tri-state Italian Americans, like, we're so cocky. Like,
Yeah.
we just think the world revolves around us.
Correct.
So
I
go
think
ahead.
that's
Yeah.
tri-state people in general, to be fair. No, really, I do.
Right,
I,
right.
I think that's a
But it's
symptom of a
true.
greater, you know, like this New York
Yeah.
mentality is across the
Right,
board.
right.
You know, it's
I would love to truck people out to Tontitown, Arkansas.
yeah,
Right?
It's a different story there.
Well,
yeah.
I'll tell you something. Like, and
it's a heartwarming one,
well,
really.
Yeah.
Some of them are 1/8 and 1/16 Italian now, and they self-identify as Italian American.
Yeah.
And they have like green, white, and red in so many places. And my thing is that they're leaders in self-identification, right? Because
Wow.
they have chosen, you know, and a lot of them, they're I don't know how I call it Confederate. I don't know what else to say. A lot of them are genetically majority now, vast majority of their bloodline is the American South, the people who
Right,
would have traditionally
right.
fought for the Confederacy,
Okay,
right, in Arkansas. And when you have people like our friend Heather and Carajo self-identifying as Italian American when they're going into a less and less of a degree, that's something we should be proud of.
Right.
See, the Irish go around the world and they see everything as Ireland. There's only 4 million of them in that country. That's why they thought John F. Kennedy was their president, as if they had taken over America.
Right. He represented
He
that for
represented
them.
it, and he came back to
Yeah.
them, and they're like, okay, well, now we conquered America, right?
Right.
But that's not the we're Italians in Italy beat us up constantly. We have more. Every Italian American podcaster, a social media influencer, if you put us in the one room and said what unites us is the attacks we get from Italy. You're not really Italian. You don't represent Italy.
Oh, so you're saying
Yeah.
you get a lot of like backlash?
Oh, tremendously.
Oh, okay.
Which would the Irish people would not. Now you get a little bit more of it, but they would say it in a humorous way. But Ireland sees its diaspora as its power.
Right.
And that, you brought up a great thing. People always putting us in categories.
Right.
Well, you're not really Italian, or you're from
Yeah.
here, or how Italian could you be? You're from Utah.
Right.
But there was a lot of Abruzzese people that settled in Utah that worked in the
Right.
coal mines.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That
Yeah,
story,
absolutely.
the Italian American story across the United States, like that is history. You know,
Yeah.
that's actually American history. You know, we're talking so much about Italian, but it's actually now American history. You know, that's the immigration of folks like East Coast all the way to West Coast, or maybe they landed on West Coast, and you know, depending on what their immigration stories were. But yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. You need like a full series on this topic to kind of like go through it and you know, hit all the layers, because it's so deep.
And that's why Pat's, you know, always sort of hoarding stories, right? I mean, hoarding guests and stories. Like we're constantly adding to his list
Yeah.
because each story
We're hoarders.
we are hoarders. I
Well,
mean,
in every
look
sense.
around,
Yeah,
but
yeah, correct.
I hoard
Look at this.
garage sale
We're gonna
Memorabilia.
have
stuff.
more and
Yeah.
more here. We're gonna have
Yeah.
Nicole come and clean it
Oh,
out one
please!
day.
It
look.
should be painting the walls white.
Okay.
But I think that the idea for us is that, especially for you, that we're just kind of running full steam ahead into like as many of these stories as we could put out there, right?
It's important.
It is important. And I think
this is important work. What you guys are doing, and I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
I'm just saying, like, as someone who watches the podcast and I see all the work you're doing, this is important work. And you have to continue doing it. You have to bring in whoever you need to bring in. And you have to hear everyone's stories, because my story is way different than Patrick's story, than your story. But that's the true content, is just the story, you know?
I mean, it's a micro mosaic, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that transition that you experienced in your career from TV and radio to today, this idea of media or influence, whatever it's called in the moment,
calling it, right,
is really indicative of kind of where that opportunity and responsibility lie, right?
Yeah.
In a time where you had 3 basic channels, a couple on, UHF, and then eventually cable, whatever, you had to sort of fight for your piece of the pie, right, of representation.
Yeah.
But now you can put your own content out.
You are your own producer.
You're your
now,
own everything,
basically.
yeah. And I think that's a huge opportunity and responsibility. And I think the way you teach people that sort of the way you dissuade people from that gatekeeping of I'm this generation, that is to show them as much as you can. Like I learned a lot traveling the country as the head of NIAF. I saw communities that I would have never guessed there were Italian people in, and would have laughed at the idea, and saw the beautiful manifestations of the culture there.
Yeah.
And I saw the similarities and I saw the differences. And it made me very aware that the biggest impediment to who we are, who we can be as a self-identified group is not stereotypes or this. It's our own sort of ability to nitpick each other out of this, authenticity.
Yeah. And I think the more we talk about it out loud, but not in a negative way, right? So, we may have just kind of like gone through some of the layers of it, but I think that's how you kind of, I don't want to say solve, because you're never going to solve all the problems of the world, but the more you speak out loud about what is actually going on, in these like smaller knit kind of relationships where you're like, well, or do they think I'm less because I'm first or second generation? I don't think that should matter anymore. Like I think we need to just be out and open and continue talking about our experiences. That's the only way you're going to learn.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that for the listener out there who gets sensitive to any of this kind of stuff, be it from something we say or some other content creator, it's like, you know what? We have to be aware that ownership of identity is yours, right?
It's yours.
And somebody else may not see it or may not receive it. That's their problem. That's not your problem. You are what you are.
Right.
And I've learned that time and time again in our community. You know, it's not about blood or this or that. It's about your soul, what you feel.
What did you take away from the time you spent on the blog? Like what did
you're still doing the blog?
I still do the blog. I mean, I update it, as much as possible with just because I'm so like locked down with a million other things now. But so my takeaway from the blog, I mean, is basically that I did feel what you're saying. I did feel I was a foundational piece in creating one of the pieces that would allow other people to come to me. I had so many people come to me and just say, wow, can I share my story? Because I would always put out these call to action. I'd say, if you have a story, it's like the TV call to action. Like, if you have a story you'd like to share, send it to me here on this email. And I would get the most amazing stories, and culturally different. Like I would get Jewish American stories, I'd get Irish American stories, because you'd have people like you, Pat, like different cultural backgrounds of each parent. So, but that's the common denominator for all of what, I feel like I observed and kind of brought in through the blog, was that we are more alike than different. So if someone grew up with a Jewish culture, but then they would laugh because they would read my blog about like what my mother or my father made for dinner or said, and someone would email me and be like, oh my God, my mother does the same thing. And I'm like, oh, where's your mother from? Thinking it's somewhere in Italy. She's like, oh, no. She's, she's from here. Or she's from there. And it's not Italian. So, I think we have to kind of really look at that it's not, I mean, I'm so proud to be Italian. I'm so proud to be Italian American. But I think it's more about culture, and it's more about, kind of listening and hearing what other people feel are their common denominator to what the story I'm sharing. So I took so much away from creating that blog, and I feel like I still am, because I've gone to events And, like my name is Margaret Fontana. It's not Italian-American girl, but I've gone to events. I was at a film festival once and I'm walking down a hall and someone's like, "Are you Italian-American girl?" And I'm like, who that? I turn around and it's just like somebody who's from the Italian community. And I'm like, and then I'm like I'm saying, yeah, I guess I am. That's I was like, yeah, that is me.
It's a weird line, isn't it? Like, I see that a lot because I'm not particularly active on social media. And since we did the studio with the folks from Grown Up Italian, being around, they're younger than we are. And they're obviously like the best at social media stuff. So they're constantly thinking and talking about it. And we were together for Sofista San Gennaro, and I would hear them say like, "Oh, that's," and they would give the handle from social media. They may not know the person's name; they know the handle. Yeah. And I find it very fascinating to watch the sort of. I always say it's like professional wrestling to me, right? Yeah. Like a lot of these people, when you meet them and you see the real person come out behind the social media personality.
That persona.
That persona is them turned to 11, right? That's a successful professional wrestler.
Right.
And then expecting them to be that 11, I don't know, it's weird. It's a weird line to walk, how do you maintain the genuine nature of what you're doing?
Well, the authenticity, right? Yeah. So are you authentic? And I think that's what I always prided myself on being in anything. So even now, right, as the executive director for the New Jersey Italian Heritage Commission, I feel that my authenticity is actually what I brought to the table. I think that was my resume. Yes, I am first generation. Yes, I'm in the trenches of everything Italian, but it's more about my authenticity. So even with the blog, right? So having a random stranger call you out and be like, "Oh, is that like, so you really like that online?" And I'm like, the way I write is the way I talk. Yeah. All right. So yeah, that's me authentically. Like I didn't write a Pulitzer Prize, anything. Like it was a blog. Like back then it was just, you write it as you speak. It wasn't like, let me make sure it's cited and it's lovely. Like it was just
it's a journal,
thoughts.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll never forget the first time we did an event after coming on the show. Right. So it existed for a couple of years and had a significant listener base when we came on, and we did an event and somebody came up to me and said, like under their breath, like, "Are you guys really friends?" And I was like, wow, I would have never even expected, like I would have never assumed somebody out in front of me was, you know what I mean? Like you're saying, you're friends.
What you see with us is what you get.
Yes, unfortunately, for better or worse.
For better, for worse.
Right. But you're doing the work of being authentic. But I think that's what's important. So if someone meets John or meets you out,
a success.
Right?
Absolutely.
They're saying, well, John really cares about what he's doing in this, like this whole production of everything you've produced here. Your heart and soul is obviously in it, right? So Patrick coming and showing up, he says funny things. He tells you he's cold, but his heart and soul is in this, and that's why he shows up every week. And Nikki and everyone else, right?
This great team of Muppets we put together.
Right,
We're all
right.
a Muppet show.
Normal people.
No, you just
would not
like to
put
complain,
themselves-
and I'm a good target for your complaints. Come on.
I noticed the dynamic is that he goes with the complaints, and you just go,
Yeah, I'm Kermit the Frog. I don't know what Muppet he is,
his
but
responses.
No, we put ourselves to a lot.
we do.
We
We
do.
do.
Yeah.
We do. No, I'm
we have
not
a
saying
right
we
to
don't.
complain.
But
Yeah.
you and I have a dynamic over the
very
years.
positive.
I'm very positive. He's very negative. Although I'm
very,
becoming
like-
more negative, probably because of you.
But sometimes,
Yeah, good.
He's making me more negative. Thanks, great.
sometimes that negative though is a little bit of the DNA, and that's a motivator. That's actually a little bit of a motivation
That's true. That's a good
factor in
point.
the background, because you're like, well, Patrick thinks that's bad, and then someone else goes, well, maybe we should do better, right? So you never know.
I rely on him a lot. He stiffens my backbone, a lot of times. But I also have to drag you kicking and screaming through everything. We're working on a Christmas album right now.
Oh,
Like-
Maron,
like
what a
singing
disaster.
Like
or-
singing, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
This
And
is the deep end.
it's not going to be a disaster. It'll be
Oh, I didn't know you guys were singers. Okay.
We're
We're
not.
not. That's the whole point.
Yeah, we're
We're
not.
not.
But
Why don't you maybe go ice skating? And I
can't
can't
ice
ice skate.
Are you gonna do like a whole video
Oh,
shoot at
you
like
don't know.
Rockefeller Center,
You don't
like
No, we
ice
do
skating?
a Christmas video every year.
Now we have an album.
Now we have an album. But you only had to do 2 songs, first of all. You didn't have to
Oh,
do
my God.
anything.
You didn't need. I mean, that's another conversation.
It's a
All right,
family
well,
affair, right? But
we'll know about it, I guess, when it
Yeah.
Would
comes
you do a
out.
Christmas album? If he called you up and said go on a Christmas
I
album,
mean,
what would
if
you
it
say?
was funny, yeah, I'd do
it's
it.
fun.
If
That's-
it's
You're more
funny, I
fun
mean,
than I am.
listen, no, I would put out the disclaimer. I am not like Celine Dion, but
also the technology
You know.
out there nowadays is amazing.
oh yeah,
what
maybe
they
we
can
could
do.
like do a little.
No,
do a
it's not
little.
fake.
Like, oh, you're going to sound wonderful. Then you're not. It's not
There's
me.
there's probably like 10 singers in the world who are going through without any adjustments, right? Like the Celine Dion, Mariah Carey, maybe
Ariana
like, right?
Grande.
Yeah, Ariana Grande, like those
Yeah.
voices.
Yeah.
But the rest of them are getting nips and tucks
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
yeah.
So
the
we're
AI
just,
kind
yeah,
of
we're just part of the
tune. What do they call it? Tune.
auto-tuning.
Auto-tune. Yeah.
But it's fun. But yeah, we.
All right.
What are
Well,
we going to do with this album? I don't even know. People
well,
don't
make that a
realize how cool-
fundraiser. Make that a
It is. It's gonna
fundraiser.
be a
Oh,
fundraiser,
okay.
Yeah, well, we're gonna put a portion of the proceeds to a charity that we select, and
Yeah.
there's plenty of good candidates
let me ask
out
you
there.
then, what can we do to collaborate on the New Jersey Italian Heritage Commission and what goes on in this studio? This is a first step,
That's a
and
great
I'm happy
question.
you brought me here.
That's
and I want to make sure we're still talking about education and
we want to make this the digital piazza.
Yeah.
okay, I
This
like
is
that.
our piazza.
And
the
you
digital
you
piazza.
asked that question as I was thinking as you were speaking. I'm writing my notes myself.
Yeah.
One thing that would be great collaboration, because for those out there who don't know, and I don't think we talked about this on the last show with Bob, the New Jersey Commission's curriculum that you reference
Right.
is not only at this point throughout the state of New Jersey, but it's also being sort of encouraged and pushed and shared throughout
Yes.
the country,
Right.
particularly around issues like Columbus Day and things
Yeah.
like that. And you guys have done a great job of sort of being
Yeah.
standard bearers for real objective information sharing and communication techniques and things like that. He's always said, and it's a bit above my pay grade, but because we are a digital platform, one thing that we need to be doing is creating a series of sort of like almost how-to, right? Like the Doreen Kinderly, is that Doreen Kinderly, DK?
know, but I don't even- I
DK, whatever it is. Like that DK instructional guide or the idiot's guide to
Right,
being
right.
Italian American and where the history is, because a lot of people don't know this stuff. So those
No.
kind of digestible nuggets,
That's education.
it's education. and
It's education. Yeah. And like I said, the foundational pieces of this curriculum, it's K through 12, right? So it gives you arts, it gives you history, it gives you math, it gives you science, like all of the foundational prerequisites like you would get normally. But now you have a layer that's in there that's Italian heritage, right? So that is not in any of the school systems. You have to have superintendents and very like passionate teachers who are saying to themselves, I saw this curriculum out on this thing and this would be really great for my students. And they want to bring in a layer of that education. But that's the part where we also have to make those connections with those superintendents, the teachers. Listen, teachers have the hardest jobs. And I will say, like, being a teacher, I wish I actually went down that route, but I got pulled into the drama of TV. But being a teacher is the most important job, obviously, and so we really need to support our teachers. And part of supporting them is really then providing as much as we can, either through anything that we have from a resource standpoint. So whether it's the curriculum, whether it's links to something else, whether it's, conversations with someone else who could help bring something else into the classroom, that's important, because we were just talking about the generations, but this is where, we're cool. We still look young. We're still hip. We're doing things. But right behind us, you have like Nikki and the rest of, the generations below him who are like not fully educated on all the layers.
They're just not educated.
I mean,
if you were in the you could just see
you're
that.
you're in the classroom, but you're in higher education.
But
So
I feel that the crisis, there's many causes of this crisis. And I think that the push in the late 90s, in the tech explosion years for STEM, which is science, technology, I think engineering and math. The message I feel that's been out is that learning history is not going to get you a job. Learning music is not going to get you a job. Shakespeare is not going to get you a job. Science, technology, engineering, and math will get you a job, and that's the only stuff.
and the
you should worry about.
humanities have gotten axed, right? That's what it is.
It's like, it's almost an indication of why would you be so stupid to waste time? Like, who cares what George Washington did? Who cares?
Right.
I'm talking about basic stuff.
Right.
And I think that's where school's the most important thing, because school teachers like mothers form the future, right? 'Cause
Absolutely.
They form the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we don't have control of those institutions. But I think that us going out into the trenches of social media is where we're fighting that battle. Because, and I'm going to screw it up and it's going to sound funny to people, but like all the stuff that we post, right? I just spoke to another Italian American group, and I said, you have no social media presence, and post a famous Italian American, post something about Italian history every day on Instagram, and little by little you'll get those viewers, you'll get those eyeballs.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much. If you really, we have a lot of listeners. We had Bob on like 100, maybe 2 years ago, 100 episodes ago. Can you explain to our listeners the monumental achievement that Gilda made with the curriculum in New Jersey, and how they can access it, what it does,
Right.
what you guys can do to get it to other parts of the country?
Yeah. So Gilda Roro Baldessari Cavaliere, I should give her
Consul, Honorevole.
She's got like 50 titles, and rightfully so. She has put in her dues, and she's done the work over the years.
Wonderful person, her
And-
and her daughter, Dr. Mary.
Yes, Dr. Mary Roro. And so Gilda's the head of the curriculum committee for the New Jersey Italian Heritage Commission, but Gilda was really the true pioneer. We're talking 20 years ago at least. Who developed the curriculum, for K through 12. And Gilda was a, very important person within the Department of Education. So really, she's responsible for laying down that important groundwork. And so what she did was actually develop the website, before Bob. She was the first person. She developed the website. And then she took all of those lessons and she put them digitally, because everything was like paper, PowerPoints. They loved paper and PowerPoints. She got everything digital, put everything on the website so you can access. So now, fast forward, thanks to Gilda and all of her hard work, and she's still in the trenches. She's still the head chairperson for the curriculum committee, and she's very active with it. And we just launched a new lesson, by the way. It's Creation of America, the Roman Legacy. And you can access that on the website, NewJerseyItalianHeritage.org. And under lessons and lessons plans, you can just click there. Any teacher can go there, just, enter your email and then download all of the lessons. So there is access to it at all times, 24/7. And we're developing more lessons as we go. And the next lesson that's going to be launched, which is exciting, which I'm totally excited for, is Italian women and Italian American women. So that's going to be coming out in spring 2025. But it's accessible. So we hold our annual Congress every spring. And we have all of the materials available. We have a lot of educators come. We do different presentations just to show, all of the different topics and what we're showcasing, and just letting them know, again, what I said before, we are there to provide the resource and the awareness, right? So awareness is very important because a lot of educators don't know that you can actually access this for free. Like, no one's saying, in exchange for anything. This is all for free. And so we've had success in New Jersey, really getting this into the school systems. I don't have exact numbers in front of me, how many school systems, but I'm actually in the process of reigniting those relationships to get that back into the schools that don't have it, which takes time. Rome wasn't built in a day, which I said yesterday, and I thought it was funny, and everyone's like, oh, I'm like, you get it, Roman like, so it's really, it's accessible, it's there, and it's important. So NewJerseyItalianHeritage.org, and, go to the site, check it out, send emails. If there's feedback or if anybody's looking for anything in particular that you don't see, we're always open to developing more.
Let me ask you, so for people who don't know, what is the state commission? Who do you work for now? What is the New Jersey Italian American State Commission?
So the New Jersey Italian Heritage Commission is commissioned by the state of New Jersey. So every commissioner is appointed by the governor of New Jersey. So everyone who is on our commission has been appointed by the governor, which is a very important position to have, especially if you're asked to be part of it. And so all the folks that are on the commission now have been there for many years, and their job is to really use their resources of, like we're talking, everyone on our commission has the most amazing high-level backgrounds, talking about scholars, like most of them are high-level scholars, just unbelievable kind of, education and background on every person. So we report into the state of New Jersey, so the governor basically. We are partnered with the Department of Education. We are within the Department of Education, but we are, not of the Department of Education. So that's kind of how it's structured. And this was, it came to life back in 2002, which I think is, it's pretty amazing. It was one of the first ever commissions in the country. So I think I think there's actually 2 commissions.
Delaware has one.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's
Yes,
2
Ricky
commissions.
Roberto, very good friend of ours as well.
Right.
Came on the
Him
same
and Bob
episode,
were on
yeah.
Right.
together.
Oh, right. I did see that. So, it wouldn't hurt to have more of this structure across the United States, because the goal for us, like I said before, is education. So the more we can create these types of structure across the United States, it would not hurt. It would actually be, a really great initiative, which, some folks on the back end are all trying to make happen, but that's what we're doing in New Jersey right now. And so my job is to keep all of those pieces moving and running and kind of developing new ideas, living history projects. We really want to be able to showcase more Italian Americans, share more of the story, share more of the history. So that education component is like morning, noon, and night, never stops.
That's a wonder. I think of so much stuff that I continue to learn. I've been doing this for a long time, and it's Italian American Heritage Month now as we record this. And the other day, something popped up, some secret Italian American that I didn't know about, and I thought, wow, this is great. I don't think I sent it to you actually, but I gotta send this to Pat, and we gotta cover this. And there's so much out there to learn, and the opportunities are just waiting for people to put them into action. So, seeking out what you guys are doing, getting a commission built, getting it into your schools. This is what people.
We
can
got to
do.
thank Senator Paul Sarlo from New Jersey, who was the pioneer for setting up the commission.
Yeah. There are definitely a lot of people who, I have a long list. Like when we were at the Columbus Day ceremony yesterday in Trenton, the list, like you can't remember all the, of every person who contributes and helps. It's we're grateful, but he's one person and he made such a huge contribution to really get this off the ground. But there are so many other people.
When you think like people do small things, it's like a pebble that hits the water and has
But
waves.
it matters.
Yeah, it matters so
It matters,
much.
Yeah, everything builds up. And that's exactly
Whatever little effort you're doing out there,
It
don't
matters.
discount it.
Yeah.
It's like we said at the beginning, when you like and subscribe, you help us spread. That's true. And maybe it's not liking and subscribing. Maybe it's going and
No, they gotta like and
You guys like and
subscribe. You guys
subscribe
like
too.
and subscribe no matter
yes,
what.
of course, no matter what. But go and talk to
the message.
your Department of Education or your school board or your teacher, your kid's teacher, or whatever it is. Just being on the page with everybody
right.
and thinking in terms of a community and thinking in terms of how we can share our story. That's
and like
important.
I said, we are more alike than different.
Yeah.
And, this platform is to amplify, like what you're doing amplifies the message and the awareness. So that's the first step is awareness, to say like, oh, we are very alike. There should be no differentiation on, I'm first generation, you're fourth, and you don't know what I know. But, I don't have your story about the hallway story, but my story is.
My stock story's been the meatball.
Okay.
We can't agree on a national meat, and that I took from Floyd Pavilion. We can't agree on a national meatball recipe.
Right. How do we grind it?
No, because everybody's nonna does it
Does it
different.
better.
Right, and then she does it different from her sisters.
Yeah.
And she's going to say to you, I cook better than my sister. My
Right.
grandmother used to
Right.
say, So they go in from the same, but we are a competitive people.
Right.
My meatball is not only the better than your meatball, it is the greatest meatball. It's like Italian people with homemade wine.
Yeah.
Some people make great homemade wine. Some people make vinegar.
Yeah.
Some people tell you that I make the best of wine.
That
It's
was
the
my father.
best.
My
And
father
it's
made the wine
undrinkable.
every October, and my friends would come over and they'd be like, my father would be like, this is the best wine you're ever going to have. And they'd be like, is it, Mr. Fontana? I had our neighbor down the street came up to me. This was after my father passed, last story. And said to me, hey, I've been meaning to tell you this. He's like, do you know that your father one day, I gave him a bottle of wine that my uncle made. And I told him, I said, Joe, just try the wine, but get back to me. Let me know what you think. So my father, goes over to him probably like a day after and says to him, he goes, listen, I don't want to make you feel bad, but that wine is no good. And my neighbor loved this man. He was laughing so hard. He goes, I love your father so much. But to your point, Pat, your wine, your grandfather, whoever made it, that's the best.
It's the best.
It's the best.
best.
It's the best.
You could take the most expensive bottle of wine, put it in a Pellegrino bottle, hand it to them, say it's
Somebody-
homemade, and
Yes.
they'll say, it's not mine. It
Yeah,
doesn't
right,
matter
right.
what.
Italian person off the boat person, I can guarantee you that's not listening to this podcast, one time gave me a bottle of wine. It was like an aquarium inside. All to that fetch, it was all
but guess what?
Around.
Yeah, but now you buy kombucha.
That's
And what do you
true.
and
No,
what do you
that's
think
true. Not bad for you.
kombucha? And now you think you're all like cool because you're at Whole Foods buying kombucha.
That's what
but
we need to get
meanwhile,
into.
Nono is making
No,
it.
just
American
good.
kombucha.
Some people make excellent.
Right?
Yeah.
Many people,
Right.
and it's getting better because people use stuff like Justin Domini with the stainless steel tanks, and people. But there always was that guy. But the guy who made the worst wine was the most obnoxious. Mice is the best. Mama, what do you think?
But a Cheeto, when they say a Cheeto,
but
like
you know,
it's
they're not
vinegar.
even- it's not even a cheat. It's worse because our cheat you can use.
Right, you put on your
our cheat is
salad.
vinegar. You could use our cheat. It's not even our cheat. The quality, some of them.
Right, there's like gurgly
But
things
these are
coming
the-
out.
right.
Yeah.
But if they weren't
He's
doing
the
it,
best.
would we be
Mega
us?
super saveto, come the super salad better.
What would you think of the guy who gave everybody credit for the wine better than his? No, you'd write him off.
Know what I loved best? When the guys off the boat would make wine together and then get into a fight.
Oh, of course.
yeah.
I know one guy.
So my father would do it alone, and maybe that's why.
Absolutely. A lot of people I know
probably
don't even
why.
tell them what
I know
grapes
one
they
Ita-
use.
I'm going to be expelled from a certain, but I know one Italian guy, 3 brothers off the boat. They make it together, but he buys the grapes every year and he picks the varietal so they don't know the combo.
Oh yeah.
That's
My
the
father
Italian
my father
family.
would do that too.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
and then
yeah,
we'd get into the garage, he'd have everything set up and we were like, but I thought we said we were making red. He'd be like,
Doesn't matter.
No.
No.
he would go to Newark, he'd buy all the, all the
DiDonato.
Yeah, he would buy
DiDonato
the
with the lean-to.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and that was the big trip. You'd buy grapes and olives from I forget what street. What street is that on? Like
They used
Halsey
to be-
Street or
that's
somewhere?
gone now. He's in Elizabeth now. They
Oh, he's
used
in
to be
Elizabeth?
in it was a lean-to. It was one of those things that you can't replicate.
No, no.
It was like by the highway in a field.
It was random by a bridge. That's all I remember when I
By
was
the
little.
bridge.
It's like
Yeah,
by
yeah,
a bridge.
yeah,
You get
yeah,
off
yeah.
of like Route 22. You're like, I'm like, Baba, is this the street? He'd be like, you just kind
It's
of
like you were going to buy drugs.
yeah.
And he was hitting. He was
Yeah.
hitting like he was a drug. Like it was like you couldn't find
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But he works out of a house. He's the best.
Yeah, and you could, and
He
he
is
would
the
get,
best.
he
Remember-
gets the best grapes from
He is the
California, right? I
This
think
is
the
the
right
time of year.
I
This
hope
is the time of
everybody
year.
out there, we get so much interest. Talk about education and why we're here, and like one of the things we've seen over the course of this show doing it is people who remember their grandparents doing it or their parents doing
Yeah.
it, or maybe faintest memories, but want to do this kind of stuff again. And that's
Yeah.
what all this is about. Sometimes there's high education,
Yeah.
and sometimes there's
They
passing
were
along
a
folk.
team building exercise.
They are, yeah. They're
because you had
Yeah.
to make a gargantuan amount of something, some
Yes.
food product, and you had to have a team of people. Then you had the bossy people. Then you had the worker people. Then you had relatives who got on each other's nerves. But we came out with the production line before Henry Ford.
Sure
you
did.
think about that?
takes a village, and it literally, and you know what?
Who made the dough? Who rolled
Yeah.
the dough? Who cut the dough?
More than anything
That's
else,
true.
it's how it's the good time spent together. As a kid,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
loved it, and I think kids nowadays, I see it. So my nieces and my daughter around tomato jarring at my in-laws and like wanting to get. Now you can't let them; it's boiling
Right,
water.
right,
but like
right. But
wanting
they
to
can
get
watch,
involved, and
yeah.
they can wash
They
them
can
next
watch,
year
yeah.
or whatever. That's what it's all about. It's about
Yeah.
good fundamental times
Yeah,
together, and that's what we're trying to do here. So
Yeah.
if you're out there and you're making wine in these days around September, October,
Yep.
send us your stories and your photos and all your successes. If you are interested, you can find Margaret at The Italian American Girl.
Right, ItalianAmericanGirl.com. But then the commission is New Jersey Italian. It's NJ ItalianHeritage.org. And if you want to learn about the curriculum, see what we're doing in New Jersey, come on to that site and email me. I'm on all social platforms. So I said it the other day on a different meeting. I was like, just email me. I love connecting pieces. So thank you. And thank you, you guys. This was amazing. I feel honored to be here. And thank you for all the
No, we're
accolades.
honored
And
because you are the.
Thank
you
you,
were
Patrick.
You were the Columbus. You really were. Because I was
I
there.
don't know
I
who
could
wants
say
that
it.
title these days.
Whoa.
No, you were. You led the. You were the first
I led
ship
the
of the
charge.
line. You led the charge.
I led
and
the
we're all
charge.
here today because of you. And
Patrick,
so,
you're
on
the
behalf of
best.
us, I thank you.
That's it.
Thank you for coming over. We really
Thank you,
do
John.
appreciate it.
I'm
And-
so honored and all the work you do. And this is beautiful.
Next time you come, we're
Hoarding.
going to have heat.
Yes. Well,
Gonna have heat.
heat's all right. I turned it up a little hot. Yeah, I think it's getting a little warm. Yeah, we're getting a little
Get off it on
sweaty
here.
over here, so we're going to go out and cool off and open these soundproof doors. Hope you guys have enjoyed this one. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Born in Italian. If you want your life to be great, see that you're born an Italiano and your life will be great. See that you're born an Italiano and your life will be great.